Good evening everyone, and welcome to the Planning and Highways meeting today, the 4th of April. I've just got a few notes to go through before we start. Please be aware that the Council is video recording this meeting, and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I'd just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off or set to silent. The fire exits are via the doors out of the chambers and down the external fire escape stairs, or via the main entrance that you enter the building through. In the event of a fire, the lift should not be used. The assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office on West Street. Please remain seated unless you are invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. The toilet facilities are out in the corridor you enter through. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with their key points as follows. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. As Chair, I will interject if needed to enforce this. For those looking to speak specifically about a planning or tree works application on the agenda, you will be invited to speak immediately before the committee considers that application. For those looking to speak on non-planning application business, you will be invited to speak during the public participation agenda item. Please raise your hand to show you wish to speak, and I will invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure you can be heard across the room. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking if you do not wish to, but we ask that you clearly state which agenda item you are speaking about. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. Members of the public looking to leave the building will need to be escorted by a council officer. If the meeting goes into confidential session, a short 2-minute break will be held to allow members of the public to leave. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order. I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the Council, I would like to thank everyone for attending this Town Council meeting. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
No apologies now.
Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. In accordance with Town Council policy, members of the public wishing to speak on individual planning applications may do so immediately before each planning application. So, anybody want to speak on non-planning? Right. So we move on to agenda item 4, and I'm going to move, because I think the majority of people here are for Regent's Close, am I right? So if members are happy if we do that, thank you. So LW/24/0180, 3 Regent's Close installation of a rear dormer to create first floor living space, addition of 3 roof lights on existing roof, extension to existing driveway, alterations to fenestration and all elevations, and alterations to external wall materials. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do I address you as chair or?
Yes.
I know council have different protocols. Yes, Chair, thanks
You
very
have
much.
4 minutes.
As a retired fellow of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, I would like to clarify the point that I am not trying to take away anyone's permitted development rights, whether I agree or otherwise with the secondary legislation. I would, however, submit that the reason planning permission is required for this application is because it's beyond permitted development limits and is, as Mr. Johnson has expressed to me today, to assess the extra size and design of the proposed extension and its impact on the host property and the surrounding area. I therefore submit that the application should be refused on the grounds that the subject dormer is considered excessive in size and scale and a dominant addition to a small 2-bedroom bungalow on a small site. I would add that several other bungalows are grouped together in that area and they are of similar size. As I say, it's on a small site that makes the roof unduly bulky and prominent, as can be seen clearly by the side elevation plans, which I think you can see there on the bottom right, bit that's projecting out. As such, it unacceptably harms the character and appearance of the property and the surrounding gardens and other bungalows, with its 2 triple windows and 1 double window, which is the bottom left-hand projection. You can see the whole thing there. By looking at drawing number 02, which is that one I think anyway, it is clear that by reducing the width and depth of the extension, and by removing one of the bedroom dormer projections, a smaller dormer can be created, most likely within permitted development limits. This then could provide just one window with clear glass and the bathroom one with obscured glass. This would clearly reduce the amount of overlooking and bulky appearance, and in my view would be consistent with the local plan and neighbourhood plan requirements or guidelines, which I think the officer has explained those to you. Finally, turning to a small 1970 2-bedroom bungalow into what appears to be a 4-bedroom house with 3 parking spaces, if the garage is included, must change the character of the area over time, causing detrimental and social cohesion effects. Also, given that modern cars are usually too big to fit those small garages, so are often converted into further accommodation, sometimes behind garage doors to avoid planning permission. I saw this when I was buying property in buying my current property, bungalows that I looked at. In several cases, the garage had been turned into a room, but they left the garage doors on the front. The final point that I would make is that intensification always has some knock-on effects. Now, I appreciate it's up to the committee to decide whether they, within planning policy and that, decide whether...
I must bring you to a close.
Sorry?
I must bring you to the close because you've had 4 minutes.
Right, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to make comments on this application? No?
I'll make my own letter, thank you.
Thank you for the the letter which has been circulated to the committee.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's now open to the committee. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Hannigan.
I'll just start off because I may come back because obviously it's quite there may be fair bit to talk about, Chair. And, yeah, I went round this morning. I just happened to be in that part of Kingsmead area of Seaford, and it's an empty property. I can assume it's an executive's possibly, and someone's bought it up. It's completely empty. Loads of buildings stand in the front, so there's obviously those big sacks. Just what I had come across. Yes, what the residents said regarding all the other bungalows in that particular close, none of it's been extended anything to this extreme. So it was all in the right context. They are quite small plots, so and it would obviously change it completely from a sort of traditional, if you say 70s two-bedroom bungalow to a four-bedroom house, and really change complete character of that particular close, but some of the other closes as well, which run parallel down the as you go down towards Belgrave Road, doesn't it? Yeah. So the starting point, yeah, I think it's too excessive, and I don't know the exact percentage above the 50%. Everything goes with that. I don't know if anyone's worked that out exactly, but I think it's excessive anyway. It is above 50. Anyway, there's a starting point. Anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Hannigan. Anyone else? Councillor Martha?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I did the same. I went and had a look. They've dug up the back garden already, so clearly there are, you know, the building works are starting. And I had a look around the close, and then obviously drove along, and then down Beacon Drive, and around that area. And there is really actually not that much change in the properties around there. A lot of them have still got some quite nice gardens or grass in front of them. There are some that have paved the fronts so that they can have a wider drive. I accept that, and that does tend to happen. And at the time, because it was during the middle of the day, there were very few cars parked anyway. But it's quite a small close. So the width of the road is really quite narrow anyway. So then you've got about 6 houses around, or 8, that are quite close to each other. So with lots and lots of cars in there, if you can't get your cars into the garage, it's not going to help anyway. And also the fronts. So some fronts are slightly different. Some fronts do have a kind of porch area on some of the fronts, but they're all fairly similar. And they're very similar to those that go on down Kingfisher and then left down to Beacon Drive. And so it's an unspoilt area in terms of the architecture that has been set for that area. And as in other areas that we've often discussed where quite a lot of extensions and buildings have happened, they've either been similar or unique. This hasn't really happened around that area at all. So the opportunity for creating such a bigger creation, if you like, in dimension is actually also quite worrying about setting a precedent in the area. I'm not quite sure how much that falls under planning law, but it would be, yes, a little bit of a shame. I think the front changes seem fairly consistent with everywhere else. I don't think it will change that much. Probably enhance the bungalow itself is a bit shabby, but it's empty and it could do with some improvement. It's got the window lights at the front, obviously because they were creating those for the dormers at the back. So those were there, and there aren't many that have that. I didn't actually see any other properties that had those, but they're not over intrusive, I would suggest. But when you come to the back elevation, I think, and also I kind of tried to have a look at it on Google Maps to see what the impact will be for that, the height of that looking over into other areas and to the gardens behind. And it seemed to be that all the other properties wouldn't be able to do that, but you could easily see that they would have that elevation, so that is a concern. The gentleman raised that just now, and I think that is obviously a concern really. So yeah, so I'm not that impressed, is what I'm saying. So I kind of go along with my fellow councillor.
Councillor Olivia Hunman.
I also did a drive past last night as well to look at all the different properties in the area, and I agree with my colleagues, but I won't to say that I think the idea of it being reduced down seems better, because I think it's going to be very dominant to the area, and having looked at it, I thought, and looked at, again, like yourselves, looked at the different, what was already there in the close, which as everyone said is all very small. So I would suggest, I would put stuff forward the reduce, go so it can be with a permitted development size.
I think it was well stated.
Yeah, it's well stated.
Councillor Pullman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. When we created our neighbourhood plan, one of the questions that was asked in it was what kind of buildings did residents actually want? And it was bungalows, was one of the highest that was needed. So if we're then losing our bungalows, even through permitted development rights, by allowing a first floor on there, they then become houses. And our neighbourhood plan says we want bungalows. So I think, yes, the size of this rear dormer is huge for the area, and we would be then losing a much needed bungalow. So I'm quite happy to support the objections.
Thank you. Anybody you want to come back, Councillor Hunman?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, a more, if you wanted a halfway house situation, it is the single dormer, isn't it? So you have one bedroom upstairs, but that's not for here, is it? That's for another occasion. But then that possibly would be within the permitted development rights, wouldn't it?
Yes, can I just comment about the relationship with permitted development rights? There's been quite a bit of correspondence about it. I think, obviously get the impression that, well, certainly from the four speakers, that you would wish to object to this. And I think there are solid grounds for objection. But I think to make an objection even more solid, you need to refer, not to sort of redesign it back to PD limits, but at least just to acknowledge that the PD limit does exist. In other words, you acknowledge that the PD permitted development limit will allow dormer extensions of up to 50 cubic metres, but you consider that the difference between that limit and the proposed is significant because its size, its bulk, its effect on the area, and the fact that it turns a modest bungalow into a 4-bed house. So I think to show that you've looked at it in the round, you need to acknowledge that the permitted development limit does exist, but that in spite of that, in spite of the fact, well, you can't really say it's only 20% above it, because 20% is quite significant, but at least acknowledge in the background that the owner has a right to extend by 50 cubic metres, but despite that, you still consider that the proposal is inappropriate, unsuitable for the reasons that you've given. So that's all I've got to put forward on it.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, can we have a proposer?
Yeah, I'll propose that, Chair. Do you want to speak?
No, I just want to understand what's proposed.
Not quite sure yet. Basically told to object partly because mainly on the permitted development rights. We're not saying it doesn't need tidying up a bit. It's quite tight. It looks tight quite below. To be honest, it's not.
Yeah, you could say that even taking into account the fact that the owner could provide an extension of up to 50 cubic metres, and this is 20% in excess of that excess, if you like, is significant in this case because what's proposed is too big for the scale of the property, for the character of the area, and for the question of overlooking the rear as well, because the rear properties in Beacon Drive are relatively close, and that it turns a modest bungalow for which there is a demand into a 4-bedroom house. That's probably not quite so strong as the actual strong an objection as the actual objection on the amenity, the size and the bulk and everything, but it needs to be said as well.
Yeah, we include both, don't we?
Yeah. So, as I say, it's something along those lines, which, I can actually, I've got all the notes and I can...
Because just quickly come back, permitted development rights was almost, a lot of that legislation was going after our neighbourhood plan, of course, in a lot of ways. It was sort of...
I think this limit,
yeah.
I think this limit's been in place for quite a long time, the 50 cubic metres. I'm not too sure, because the rights have been changed, extended, almost, not every year, but something like 3 or 4 times a year, because they came into focus during COVID, and a lot of rights were extended during COVID, to make things more flexible. Some of those have stayed, some haven't. So it's quite a mess at the moment. But I think this particular limit has been in place for quite a long time.
Okay. I'm happy with what that...
Yeah, so we really need to object, to have reasons of objection, like the bulkiness of it,
Yep. The amenity, basically. Plus specifically onto the bit more detail in the permitted development rights as well, so both those covered.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can mention neighbourhood plan in the sense more bungalows. I know it is in there, isn't it? As a...
Well, yes. I mean, there's no harm in mentioning a few things, even if they might not carry so much weight as the main objections, as long as you don't, overdo it. There's no harm in mentioning their concerns, because they are genuine concerns. They just might not carry so much weight as the amenity grounds, if you like.
Okay. So, we're objecting on the bulk,
Yeah.
We've got the size of the property, the character of the area,
character of the area,
and overlooking.
Yeah. Especially the rear.
Rear overlooking. And the change of
A bungalow to a 4-bedroom house.
yeah.
Change of bungalow into a 4-bedroom house.
And all in, the amenity aspects are contrary to provisions of local plan policy DM28. And there's an equivalent policy in the neighbourhood plan as well, SEA 2, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got all those points, thanks.
So, as that find a seconder? Thank you, councillor. And can I have a show of hands objecting to this application?
That's unanimous objection on those grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure, well, the lock's a bit dodgy actually, but they won't start without you, I'm sure. So.
We'll wait.
It's a bit of a funny lock.
Okay,
Thank you very much for coming.
yes,
Thank you. That was the right decision for that one.
Yeah, I think
Yes, it does look a bit
subject on
exciting.
Tuesday says you should go and look at the properties.
Did you have a look?
It's really
I didn't, I'd have to say. I'm pleased with you guys.
Two former councillors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two
no.
former
Were
councillors.
there?
Tiny codes really, though.
I do look at things on the street.
Very,
First
very
thing
small
going
front
in
gardens,
was
A mayor as well in
but not really.
I can imagine making it a 2-car space by it.
So yeah, you do that, yeah, that's all right, except that's permitted development.
Well, I've got you all here. Who has actually looked at planning application Lullington Close?
I said it very, very briefly this morning because I didn't know much about it.
Just, we're not
I
doing
only
it
knew
now,
about
are
it
we?
because
That's what-
Councillor Mark told us last night.
Have you looked at?
I've looked at Lullington Close, I was
Do
very
you-
confused.
Do you mind if we defer it to
I
the
think
next
it would-
meeting?
Yeah,
Why is
defer
that?
it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not on the paper agendas, but it was on the online
Yeah,
agenda,
that's right, yeah,
Yeah.
so I did, but actually it's,
Mm.
okay, fine.
which means some people haven't even looked at it,
No,
or
I-
not enough time to
I
to
didn't
depth.
look at it.
I didn't go in.
No.
Please do go and look at it.
And normally, I take the applications off the online agenda, but because we got them by Thursday, I just went straight to the paper
Well, that's it.
copy.
No, I don't think I've been into my pigeonhole. I printed this off because I go around in the car with it and then like,
Hmm.
I was going to write deferred, but then I went, oh, it's not on it.
I know we had the most hilarious conversation. It's on there. No, it isn't. Yes. I'm going, no, it's not. Look under there. It's between there and there. I'm going, no, it's not.
Google Earth.
Tried.
Some of them
Help. Yeah, I know. You have to drop
see
down.
down in the gardens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You get a look at the distance between properties and things.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No rush. Take a breath.
You've gone away, nothing.
Yeah.
Good. Right, moving on to applications received Monday the 4th of March. LW stroke 24 stroke 0174, Cookmere Cottage, Cookmere Road, single storey rear extension, side store, loft conversion and replace rear pool house.
Right. Yeah.
Cottage is a bit of a misnomer.
Yeah.
It was a complete misnomer for me when I was driving up and down the road.
No palace. Yeah.
It's quite big. I didn't actually drive past it, but I saw the picture on there.
Yeah, I'll go straight to the main house. The pool house is pretty straightforward.
They're in the back of the...
Yes, that's right at the back. It's changing from a sort of pitch roof shed to a sort of
Modern.
Scandinavian type flat roof. So it's the alterations to the main house that are significant, I think. So I'll put up the proposed extensions to the...
I think the single storey on it, the side store is all right as well, isn't it? I think,
Yeah.
which is going to replace the sheds.
There's quite a lot going on, loft conversion as well.
I'll put the proposed and I'll put the existing out. So, the system's a bit slow tonight, but better than it was. Right, so that's proposed, and you'll see that probably the most significant aspect, although it's just described as a loft conversion in the description, is this large roof extension to provide obviously the additional accommodation in the roof, loft conversion type of thing. You'll see in the existing plan the roof at the moment, I mean that block there is unaltered. So you can see where the roof goes at the moment, just relatively normal type of slope. But when you look at that corner, that sort of tower wing is the same, but instead of going up there, the roof is brought right out to there. It's significantly higher and quite a sort of, let's say that's existing that side. On the other side you've got the cursor, if the cursor follows the line of the new roof, it's probably something like that. So, and you can see it from the from there. So that quite significantly alters the front view of the property, and could be. I mean, it's quite extensive, quite significant and large extension when you compare the two. Whereas the other elements are, what the agent says, it's a question of tidying up. The conservatory at the rear is past its natural life, like a lot of conservatories are. So that large conservatory apparently is old and incapable of repair, so it's being replaced by a more modern type of design, similar to the pool house. A flat roof there, but protruding. And the pool house, which is completely separate at the back of the garden, is, as I say, from a pitch roof wooden shed, I think, to a flat roof, modern Scandinavian type of pool house with windows, sliding window doors.
And lower.
If you go back,
Lower, yeah, less
If you-
prominent.
go back to what's proposed.
That's proposed as far as the roof is concerned.
If you look at the sides,
Sorry, slide it down.
now to me,
Yes, you've got
that roof now looks like what we've just been discussing on a bungalow.
I know.
It's level with that side roof, which is, as it's quite a large property, it's has to be a very large extension if it's going to get it up that far. I mean, obviously the advantages is that it hasn't got. They're all large houses in large plots. It's not like a more sort of towards the middle of the town, a setting like we've just dealt with the Regent's Close, where you've got a lot of properties quite close together. But even taking that into account, that they are large properties on generous plots, it's still quite a significant and bulky change to the character of the property.
Councillor Markle.
So, bit of a conundrum really, because this property is slightly above. It's still in Cookmere Road, but Cookmere Road in the gravel area stops and then it goes into Cookmere Road tarmac. Now the houses going up from Cookmere Road gravel, which are a mixture of these types of properties on both sides, and they're quite unique, quite a lot of them. They're not totally similar, and they're all in quite big plots and detached properties. When you move from that into the road, this property kind of sits just past that. So in some respects, the extension and the size of the property relates to properties that have been in the gravel road, but the properties change as you go into this tarmac road, and there are a number of properties of which this sits next to that are very, very similar in style, which are not this size. So they have they look similar. Well, obviously they look similar to this. This one is slightly bigger, but they look similar to that as detached properties with probably less double fronts. But it's more. But it's still. But they're all kind of in keeping with each other. So this extension will change that in some respects. Other plots wouldn't manage that type of extension on their properties anyway, because they are pretty much tight into their plots. So it is quite an interesting, you can see where they would get the ideas from, because they live very close to the detached properties, but where they're placed in the road, they're not like that.
They are quite close together, aren't they?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's, I'm looking at the way that the road was built and its aesthetics really.
Are they all sort of similar height?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
So this would, because obviously I'm just presuming that the roof will come off to make it higher, so it will do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Councillor Borden.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure how they can call it a loft conversion, really, because it's not converting a loft, it's
Extending the roof.
it's putting another floor on top, so it'll be a 3-storey building. The pool house and the other side extensions and rear, I've got no problems with,
No.
but it is overdevelopment, and it is just an excessive bulky mass by adding that amount of the roof onto the property, so I would actually object to it. And there's probably many other, it's out of keeping with the area, and all sorts, I can't think off the top of my head anymore at the minute.
Street scene.
The street scene, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the character of the street scene, you know, it's all in DM 25 and DM 28, and in the neighbourhood plan, you know, mass overdevelopment, adverse impact on street scene, adverse impact on the character of the existing property, and but the side extension, the pool house, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments? And just find a seconder. Councillor.
Oh, no, I was going to, you said something.
Councillor McCann.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, Chair, where does the gravel, where does the tarmac start? It's a bit to the, there's still a couple more houses yet, isn't it? Before the normal road starts on the east.
There isn't a map of the whole road.
What about the other map?
Or the location?
On the other map on the no, the other map on the you get on with all the documents before you go to the documents. That normally says where it is. So go back to the there on the right hand side, right the very side.
Oh, there.
Yeah, but normally if they've done it right, they don't always do it right, but it's normally.
It was difficult to find.
Oh, there you go. So it's
So that came
halfway.
Yeah, but that.
That's Seaford Head School, isn't it? There. And you've got the grassed areas there. So it's quite early on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a conundrum because it's quite early on, but I don't think it's within the gravel bit. I think it is in the. It's just outside. It's just as you move outside into the main area, and then if you look at the other plots, and you can see the size of the properties to the right. Do you see what I mean? You can see that they're all fairly.
Substantial.
Yeah, similar.
All right. Councillor
I
Olivia.
can say that's where Rodmill Road is, and that's where, I think that is still in the gravel area. Because it's not till you get past Rodmill Road that you start getting to the Cookmere Road that's main road.
From there.
It's there, where the arrow is, that's where the gravel
That's
and
where
the
the-
tarmacs start and stop.
Yeah.
All right.
Because you drive round
Yeah.
Rodmill into Cookmere Road and the rest of it's
I've
gravel.
delivered along that road enough times to know that that's gravel
I was
until you
wondering
get
about
to
that.
that bit there.
Yeah.
So it's because I couldn't find it. You see, when I drove
Yeah.
up and down there. So
Yeah,
if it's, to be fair, if it's in the gravelled area, it is still big, but all those properties have had extensions and,
yeah.
you know, they're not, it's only when you get up to the, that's what I was saying at the beginning, when you get up to the tarmac area, then the properties are very similar, you can see that, but
Yeah.
perhaps.
They're, sorry, those ones, that section there, with Rodmill Road to,
They're a real
they're a complete mishmash. Question I was going to ask, it says in the planning statement, other than the colour of the windows and doors, this element normally be considered permitted development. That's what's in the planning statement.
The roof extension.
For just the whole lot. So I was going to question that, now you're questioning the size of the roof.
I'll look at the planning statement to see exactly what it says. There we go.
Mind you, they also call it a loft conversion, so.
Yeah. But it is a big
There it
property.
is. Can you show us a picture actually as well?
does it say anything about permitted development rights there in that
Maybe it's then
section?
in the first.
Maybe it's talking about the rear extension.
I know I don't, because I wrote it down word for word.
Yeah,
Yeah, rear extension, last couple of words.
yeah, because it's a bit smaller than the
Considered
conservative.
Can
permitted
you
development, yeah.
scroll up to the picture, please, Jim?
No, just go to the top of the picture. So,
So it's quite imposing anyway.
It's elevated, isn't it, slightly?
It's slightly elevated,
Mm.
it is imposing, but I have to say on the other side of the road, there are very big properties in that road.
It's the,
properties on there.
the roof,
And also they've been extended or built into their garage areas and things like
the
that.
roof would come up to somewhere like there.
So that would be, I mean, I still think,
Right, we've got a proposal on the table of objecting to this application. Excess bulky,
Yeah, bulky mass
mass,
over. Well, I've got all the points, thanks.
housekeeping,
Mhm.
etc. Unless anybody wants to add to it. Does
Good.
it find a seconder?
Are we saying we're supporting the pool house and?
Yeah.
We're saying that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
The other
fine.
elements,
Yeah.
yeah.
Councillor Buchanan seconded it.
Hmm?
Councillor Buchanan seconded it.
Thank you. And can I have a show of hands, please?
1, 2, 3. That's objection unanimous on those grounds. Thank you. I'll just get rid of all the different windows. Is it Clementine?
Catherine May.
Catherine Way. So,
Right. Having applications received week commencing the 11th of March, LW stroke 24 stroke 0084 72 Catherine Way, Section 73A retrospective application for timber decking and associated landscaping at the existing rear garden. Councillor Buchanan.
Question, why would it need retrospective planning permission?
Because it's already been
it's
built.
already there, yeah.
No, what I mean is, it's not permitted development then.
No, it's obviously went ahead with it without checking whether planning permission was needed, and it is because of the sort of elevation of the decking and everything. So it's probably only narrowly in excess of permitted development because of it's the way the height of the decking, and as I said in the last meeting, they are quite entitled to put a retrospective application in without having it held against them that they've jumped the gun. I mean, some cases are worse than others, but in any case of retrospective a development in breach of planning control, they're allowed to put an application in under this provision, section 73A. So you can't refuse an application that's already been implemented, or a scheme that's already been implemented without permission. You can't refuse it on the basis that they've gone ahead with it without permission. You have to look on it as if it's a proposal rather than an actual implemented scheme, which is difficult. But that's the way the law goes on these.
Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Honeyman?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, when I couldn't understand I don't think we have to understand the logic why they didn't want decking actually near the house, which I couldn't, that's another issue in itself. That's not what we're looking at. Although the argument that you get more sunshine where they put it, I'm not sure if I'm convinced of that, but that's because of the way the slope is from Catherine Way going down to Catherine Way and then Clementine and
it's quite steep.
Princess Blythe. But it is a funny shape, isn't it? It's quite an interesting angle, which we'll talk about on another development, but soon, won't we? But I couldn't see the advantage of doing it where they've done it anyway, but that's not for us to say. It's almost like an outbuilding, isn't it, basically? Think of it like that. It is an outbuilding.
In a way, yes. It's sort of
So where, can
enclosure.
you point out the decking? Sorry, Jack.
That's the rear garden, and it's sort of been raised up from the level of the ground to make it flat. I think the whole garden slopes.
Yeah.
So they've chosen, they wanted to make a flat area, and they've chosen to do that at the back because it's more open, probably gets more sun, and because there's a slope all the way down, so wherever they chose to have a platform or a patio or whatever, they're always going to have to excavate quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And they've chosen to put it right at the bottom. That's the actual platform itself. There's a barrier, they're about 4 to 5 foot, 4 foot maybe. So you know that's the inside of that square, and it's right up against the rear boundary, and that's the property in Princess Drive. I think 137 was one of the complainants.
Yeah, 137 and 139.
Yeah.
both
So it slopes right down to that.
I'm not sure it's up against the boundary necessarily. It kind of sits back from the boundary.
Well, maybe slightly, but it's almost on the boundary, isn't it? There's a block plan. There should be a block plan.
I couldn't find it.
Location.
No.
And so the,
Oh,
the
there
pho-
it is. Yeah.
There's one, is it?
It's in with all the others. Yeah. I don't know how clear it is.
It's
Oh
away
yeah, so
from the boundary.
it is away from the boundary. Yeah. The photos weren't that good. I think the photos could have been a bit better actually. Yeah, so the slope's right down to there, so it's been drawn in a little bit.
The section is quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the boundary. Mm.
Sorry, Chair, the objections from the neighbours.
Councillor Markburn.
Yes, the objections for the neighbours.
It's
About
basically that
intrusion.
they've lost privacy in their
Yeah, and loss of privacy in their garden,
garden.
because their house is quite a long way. I mean,
There's
that's
a
called
continual slope down in that area
garden. Yeah,
to Princess Drive.
yeah.
But they're quite entitled to use that garden. You know, they find out to have
I mean, I-
a sand pit at the back or something. It doesn't require permission. You know, which could be quite noisy anyway.
does seem to sit quite above that fence now though, with the
Yeah.
decking, or there's not much fence left, so I really understand the objections of overlooking and loss of privacy for their garden actually, because it's,
it's like a tower form.
Yeah.
yeah, whereas they could have dug it down a bit further so it wasn't sitting so high up, but
Or
they,
they could have had a higher fence to, you know,
So how high they've taken it.
yeah. That's looking towards the property, so that's no good. That screen could be higher. That one,
But it's still noise, isn't it?
yeah, yes, it is, yeah.
Councillor Hannon.
Can I just add something? Yeah, obviously the patio area outside the back of the house they're probably using for, well, they're probably washing up and doing a bit of entertaining anyway because it's an outside area and pot plants and so on. So that's quite a long way away, isn't it, from the neighbours in Princess Drive. So you basically have cut the distance out, haven't you, by going down into the other end of the garden. I suppose if they've been using it for entertaining, and I can see why it would attract some complaints, more of that possibly than the actual fencing. I'm not quite sure. It's the by the by, so I mean, it's just an observation really.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I was going to say similar to everyone else is on the same really, that I think I would personally not be very happy if I was the person.
Well, you're either going to object to it and they have
Yeah.
to take it all down completely, or we ask that the screening goes higher, but then it's going to look more so from Councillor McGann.
Actually, thank you, Chair. I was going to suggest the same thing. I mean, if the issue is being overlooked, and they actually, frankly, any of those windows from the house have the same view, if you show me, that's one issue. So if the issue is being overlooked from that specific patio, then, maybe suggest.
Yes, yes, 2 metre fence without permission, on the
Yeah,
rear.
increase the fence height.
Yeah,
Um,
they might call it a 2 metre rear fence.
And the other possible reality is the amount of times in the year that you actually get to use that for entertainment is actually relatively small, I would imagine. But again, that's the
It doesn't look too
Someone
attractive as a photo.
Well,
Well, no, that's what I was asking to increase
Like
the
by the
height
side
of that
or
fence. It,
something.
it looks like pallets sat around as it is, and which means if you make it taller, it would make it look worse.
The only other thing is that they have like honeysuckle or something
Trellis.
fast growing to screen it.
But where are they going to put them? Well, the
Prob-
roots would have to come from the other side.
Or probably painted green, so blend into the
Oh, I see.
surroundings.
Mm.
I think, they've obviously done it like that, open, to let the wind go through it.
Mm.
Well, it's clearly going to be an entertainment area. They've got deck chairs, they've got chairs and
So-
a table there.
Where are we going to go with this one? Who's going to be councillor then?
Object to it
Okay, on the grounds.
on the grounds of overlooking, loss of privacy, trying to think what else we could.
Can we still suggest that maybe they do put a high fence in or something?
No, I think it
No, because I
worse.
think putting a higher fence in, it's just going to look worse.
Oh, I just think from the other
Well, actually, to be
people's,
fair, looking worse isn't the issue, is it?
it's from the other people's perspective, it would at least give some more privacy.
Do you want to say it's unattractive?
Yes.
Better than ugly.
Can we put down obtrusive?
Is that?
Yeah, I've got obtrusive.
Yeah, you've got obtrusive, haven't you?
It's a bit rough and ready, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
Mm.
unattractive from the neighbouring
Mm.
point of view.
And as you say, an addition might make it even more unattractive.
I'd have said if you make the sides bigger, it would make it even more overbearing.
Mm.
That's the word.
Overbearing, and I think
Yeah.
that trying to make them higher, it wouldn't.
Yeah,
We're
that's
just
the
trying to
word.
avoid them having to take the decking down altogether, so try and find a way around it.
Okay.
But it's not decking, it looks like cement.
It's a patio, isn't it?
And but they decked it,
Mm. But
they
they-
put
they-
decking over it.
Mm.
But it's concrete.
Yeah, but they put decking on top of the concrete.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey, that's not-
Anyway, we've got a proposal.
So-
Who was second?
Yeah. I'll second. As you say, Chair, it might have actually had a shed on it or something previously,
Mm,
and it's been taken down and all the rest of it. You don't know, do we? But,
yeah.
you know.
Okay, so
I'm
can
happy to second, yeah.
can I have a show of hands of objecting to this application?
That's 1, 2, 3, 4 objecting.
Against? Abstaining?
I'm against the proposal.
Thank you.
I'm abstaining.
Against the resolution to object.
Correct.
Right,
I
fine,
don't
thank you.
think they should remove it.
Yeah. That's carried 4-1
That's
with
the
one
fence, put a
abstention.
fence up.
Thank you. LW stroke 24 stroke 0201, 24 Sutton Road. Change of use from retail class E to residential plus C3.
I think I have to explain. Oh, sorry.
You go first, Jim.
I think I should have really explained on the agenda that this is very much a technical application because it's all bound up with extended permitted development rights. And if you look at the planning statement at section 5, which I'll go through in a minute, you'll see that the new permitted development rights, which are very, very complicated, require an application for what's called prior approval, which this is. We've had a few of those in Bishopsdale. So they're sort of halfway houses on permitted development rights where you can use the permitted development rights as long as there are no specific objections in certain fixed areas. And the applicant in this case, his consultant, has very helpfully gone through those. It would have helped if they'd have described it as an application for prior approval in the main description there, change of use. But it's not until you get to the planning statement that you realise that it's a halfway house application, if you like. I'll take you through the various provisos. They're in section 5. So it means you haven't really got a free hand with this application. It has to fit into, if you've got an objection, it has to fit into one of these areas. It starts at section 5 here. Assessment against Schedule 2, Part 3, Class MA. It's one of these rights that's been extended during COVID to make things more flexible, as a sort of policy to make uses more flexible, especially in town centres, changes of use. So, development considers a change of use of a building from commercial to residential. Each requirement is listed below with the compliance provided in green. So here are the provisos. Unless the building should have been vacant for a continuous period of at least 3 months, they've met that criterion because it's been vacant since last November. The building fell within Class E, which is the commercial class, for a continuous period of 2 years prior to the date of application, and that again took them up to the 30th of November. It used to be an electrician shop, I think. So that criterion is met. Sorry it's a bit complicated, but that's the way the law is on this. The floor space, it comes within the floor space limit, as it's only 85 square metres. D is not within the curtilage of a SSI or a listed building or scheduled monument, so it fits into that one. It's not within an AONB or any national park or World Heritage site, so it fits in that one. It's not an agricultural tenancy, so it fits in that one. This is tortuous, as you can see, from the wording of it. But yeah, the prior approval has been submitted after that particular date, therefore another part of the regulations is non-applicable. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'll take the consultant's word for it. And it's above the minimum floor space criteria, which is 37 square metres. So it meets the national space standards. Therefore, it meets the regulations on that. And then transport impacts. They consider that there's no significant transport impacts for those reasons given in green. And contamination risks, they say there's no contamination risks. No flood risks, it's in flood zone 1, lowest flood risk zone. Change of use would not result in any increase in the building, so it wouldn't increase flooding elsewhere, wouldn't affect surface water absorption or anything like that. Impacts of noise, it's a mixed area, which I think is the correct description of, it's a mixed residential and commercial area. Yeah. It's the sort of hinterland to the town centre. And as I say, it's hellishly complicated, but thankfully they've got a good consultant who sets it out quite neatly. And it's in a conservation area. It's caught by, if you like, by the conservation area proviso, but it's not considered to change the character of the conservation area. Neutral impact, given the locality and the mix of properties in the area. And natural light in all the habitable rooms. Again, the drawings show various windows in the right places, hopefully. Two sizable roof lights for the dining room, kitchen area served by 2 windows, and 2 windows contained in the existing external door, so there will be enough natural light. Sorry about this, it hasn't finished yet. It's not an important area for general or heavy industry. So it fits in, the use fits into the area okay. And I think that's the last one. And it's not a registered nursery,
No.
so it won't be lost.
Thank goodness for that.
As I say, so if they described it as a prior approval application in the first place, then I would have been alerted to it and I would have put more information on the agenda. But it's, I came to it late, so I've had to go through it now. Apologies for that.
Councillor Marple, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just saying I didn't think there'd be a problem with it really. I mean, I remember it as Pope's. I'm really sad they've gone.
Yeah.
A great shop,
Yes.
but at the moment it's just closed down. It's just shuttered at the front. In fact, I've forgotten it was that shop, if you see what I mean, because it already looks like a house with the shutters on it and everything. It doesn't look much different from some of the other houses in the area. I mean, look, that's on the side of that street. Most of them are shops still.
Yeah.
That's to be fair. But then on the other side, there's a real mixture of shops and dentists and others. So
Accountants.
I mean, there are different types of buildings on the other side because you go up steps to the buildings and they're quite large, more Victorian type houses, where these are smaller buildings. But I don't think it would cause, unless they're going to do massive extensions and things, it's not going to cause much difference to the size of the property or the exterior really. I don't really have a problem with it.
On the plus side, it's quite useful, small accommodation in the town centre, which is
Yeah.
what's required and what's sustainable and close to station and bus routes and everything like that. So.
Councillor Richard Mullinan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as Councillor Markwell said, yes. I mean, you say there's already accommodation upstairs anyway, isn't it? Existing flats. So this is been an additional smallish property. I don't think there's any intention of doing it all up for one house. It doesn't seem like there was, looking at the detail. I think the company still exists if you want an electrician as such. It just hasn't got the shop frontage, so they still do exist in Seaford somewhere else. That's all. So if you want an electrician, well, you know they still do exist. So we haven't actually lost the company. It's just that frontage we've lost, haven't we? So I've got nothing. It's a shame to see some of the frontages disappear, but there are some positive ones like the ice cream shop further down. You know, that was a relatively new addition in the last so many years, isn't it? The last 10 years. So we do get the specialist ones as well to come about. So I'd support what we said here, and we can't really tear it down anyway. It's more of a technical issue, isn't it?
Councillor Ballman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's a little bit disingenuous that they haven't been able to rent it out or anything for 3 months. They wouldn't they didn't advertise it, so it's just has sat empty, but deliberately for this. So I think it's a little bit wrong to try and use that statement as evidence for this. But also, yes, one side of the road is a mixture of offices for places and properties. But this is a row of shops, and if we start allowing this in a middle, it's not one end, it's a middle, then you could lose that entire road of shops over the next few years. And one of the things that we've tried to do is make sure that it's kept retail down on the shops. They can have private accommodation upstairs and things, but there's shops remain shops. So I'm not actually happy with losing this one.
It is a secondary shopping area though, I suppose, isn't it?
Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. I was just about to point out, I suppose it is returning to its roots. It was prior to 1963.
There was a house.
There was a house.
It was a house.
It was a dentist, wasn't it?
No, it then became a dental surgery in 1990.
That's what it closed, yeah.
Into these. And I would agree with the thought that it's applying, it's providing single person accommodation basically in Seaford.
Councillor Markwell.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to Councillor Ballman actually, in some respects. But when you walk down Broad Street and the High Street and there are so many shops that are empty, I don't actually think we have a problem with trying to find shops that, to create new shopping areas or sorting out town parade, dare I mention it. So I do think there are other opportunities for shops in town really. I don't think we're desperate. I don't know, maybe we are, but it seems to me that we do have quite a high turnover of shops in Broad Street and the High Street.
I mean, my personal opinion is that my first reaction was losing a commercial space, because we did used to have a policy of street level shops just remain as retail. I mean, it could be an office or something like that, but no, you know, I think it's sad to see.
You're bound by those criteria,
That's
unfortunately.
right. Yeah.
There are a lot of them, but they're not really relevant to some people's major concerns about it. So they're halfway towards getting what they want anyway, through permitted development rights, as long as they tick those boxes that I've mentioned. So it's difficult to oppose it on those normal planning grounds of retaining retail.
Yeah, I understand that, but maybe if we support this, if we can, just add a comment,
Well, yeah, if you want to.
The demise of the shop
Yeah.
or the commercial.
Commercial space.
Yeah, you normally want to retain
Yeah.
a retail use in the town centre, but acknowledge that the criteria in the regulations don't apply to this, and so you see no reason why the application should be, or a full application should be requested. I mean, it's fair enough to put your concerns in there, yeah.
We haven't got a proposal at the moment.
Just intrigued to know, Chair, on what that outbuilding is on the south side. Well, that's, I suppose, relevant really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sort of interesting.
Garage,
Yeah, who might actually, it could be a garage, could be put bikes in there or something, couldn't it, or whatever. Push bikes or...
It says garage on the...
Oh, is it? Okay, right.
Yeah, but I don't know how you get to it.
Well, from that little red...
Yeah. I didn't realise there was a side into East Street.
There's a pedestrian.
Twitten, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a proposer,
Yeah, I'm happy to.
seconded.
With reluctance mind, I have to
Councillor
say that.
Hunter, and can I have a show of hands, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
So that's it should be no objection to be raised under the various criteria set out in that section, and therefore no reason why a full application should be required. Because if it did fall into any of those criteria, then it would require a full application. This is just a sort of a half an application as a shortcut to getting what they want. But we have to acknowledge we can't require that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Right, planning applications received Monday the 18th of March. LW/24/0205, land at the rear of 12 Clementine Avenue, 2-storey split level dwelling.
Oh, sorry. This is very interesting.
The Trixie one.
If I can find the cursor.
Really difficult to see from the road now.
Yeah.
Got to go round to the other road.
I do, but I just tried
Yes, it is best looked at from the close at the bottom, and just to sort of introduce it, it's very interesting because he claims that it's similar to pattern of development off Caroline Close, which is only a few yards up the road.
the road. Yeah, there's 2 closes.
Yeah, and he, his agent, in his submission, uses the pattern of development at Caroline Close to support it. But you'll see from the plan that it's not quite as straightforward and on site, but it's not quite straightforward as it seems. Sorry about this, it gets slower as the night goes on. What's it called? Catphrase.
I hate it when they do,
Yeah.
instead of,
We're nearly there. That should all go in one go, hopefully.
bit we want.
There you go.
Well, the main objector is here. That's the new dwelling. You can see he compares it to Caroline Close, which is there, where you've got two established properties at the head of the close, both facing out into the close, and you've got quite a substantial garden there on the existing properties, as I say, and you've got quite a substantial length of garden there on the Clementine Avenue properties that, that back onto it. So that's sort of an established pattern of development. If you compare it to this close, this Princess Drive close, where the proposed dwelling is going to sit, the differences are firstly that the depth of garden there is quite small, and the depth of garden left for number 12, especially in this sort of tapered area here, is quite small compared to the quite generous gardens that exist there. And more significantly, perhaps, this property here that looks out that way at the moment across an open garden, and we'll look at the sort of side of the new property. Whereas, as I said earlier, both those properties look out into the close, so they don't have the same sort of alignment. And that property is set right back on quite a generous plot, but it will look over, instead of a garden area or relatively open area down here, it will be quite close to there. So it's the size of the plots as subdivided that need to be looked at, and the aspect of number 51 compared to Caroline Close, and also it's it could make it more difficult to resist if it's approved. It could make it more difficult to resist similar properties at the rear of other properties in Clementine. But it does cut a sort of normal sized, generous plot into half, and with restricted gardens on both, really.
Okay, Councillor Honeyman?
Yeah, I had to admit I wasn't very happy with it. I wouldn't want to, I'd rather have the garden really, to be honest. But it does, I mean, when I looked at the neighbourhood plan, it does actually say about outbuildings, which presumably this would be counted as an outbuilding. Would it be counted as an outbuilding?
No, it depends on the property.
Right, but it does actually say that if to the main house, any proposal for an independent residential unit must be refused due to the impact of neighbours. So that's why I was wondering whether it would fall into that category of being an outbuilding, because it's an extra in the garden. Whether it says if it's then turned into a residential property, it then needs to be refused.
It's a subdivision of the plot, really. That's how they usually describe it.
Split the garden in half, is that it?
Well, yeah, but it has to be split level because of the lie of the land. But it's a question of whether, in principle, there should be a dwelling there in the rear garden, or whether it's sort of being crammed in, or whether there's enough room for it to be normal usage without impinging on anybody else.
Councillor Bourne?
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't work out, because when you were reading like the design and access statement, it was talked about having wheelchair accessible on the ground floor, and this, that, and the other. But when you look at the area, it's like 8 foot up. How is, and there's a carport around. And I'm trying to think, how are they going to gain access to this property from the way it looks positioned on Princess Drive? And
that's the same plan.
because they were saying about having ramps, but I don't think you could get ramps that would, for that steepness for a wheelchair, wouldn't be ideal.
Not in a short
Yes, I
distance.
think-
The ski lift, yes, I mean.
I don't think the existing properties at the end of Caroline Close are that accessible. They have to go up steps to get to them.
But that, yeah, I would say even 51 Princess Drive, it's up some quite steep steps, and that's why I can't work out why they're trying to make it
I know.
wheelchair accessible.
Given the lie of the land, it's quite surprising that those dwellings were allowed. They're difficult. And ones in Caroline Close have got a sort of a concrete screen thing, haven't they, which isn't that attractive either, but they're there already, but they do look out.
Councillor Martler.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got to look at the map that we've just looked at and seen how many properties this is going to impinge upon to think, excuse me, but really, how is this, how could we possibly let this agree this, really, honestly? The other properties were built, well, I'm not sure when the other properties were built in the one that they're comparing it with. Did you work that out, Jeff, actually, whether they were additions or whether they were part of the planning?
They look to me as if they're part of the original.
See, there's a kind of oval of properties there around that close, so it looks like they're part of the plan of that close.
Yeah,
They
they
are,
are.
they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Judging by
Whereas this
the
is
size of the
completely-
gardens, yeah.
Yeah, but this is a complete anomaly, so it doesn't fit with anything else that's there. It will be overbearing from the point of view of 4 properties there, and there is no reason to do it except for profit, really and honestly. So I can't see why we would agree to it.
Reduction in garden space as well.
Reduction in garden
Yeah,
space.
See, I was going to say, suggesting the character of the area comes from the attractive properties with generous gardens. They are. It's quite nicely planned with the slope and everything. And here, you would be completely different to all the pattern of development in the area, because all the gardens are of that size. It would open the doors to other backland.
I mean, look at
development.
the one next door, you'd end up with.
It's strictly speaking not backland. It's similar to backland development, but because of the close, it is not technically backland development. It's a bit similar to backland development in that it's garden snatching, or whatever you want to call it, town cramming, other members used to call it. That's the sort of impression I
I think the
got.
other point is that from Princess Drive side, it looks like a house, and in that area, it's all bungalows.
Yeah.
The houses don't start till further along Princess Drive, so I think it's totally out of character
It's totally out
to,
of character.
yeah. Councillor Richard Hanneman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think in a minute, can we have a look at the actual diagram, the decal with it in the, but I can do well, number 51 at the moment. Before you do that, Jeff, they get access from next to number 12 from Clemington anyway, don't they? They got a drive, haven't they? It goes down
Well, it
there.
looks like it, yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's a bit of an odd development itself, but it does look out. It looks out the front.
But does the access? That's why I asked to look at the other diagram where the diagram of the house in the back, the proposed house. But would they go? They go around the side of number 12, don't they?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so.
That's how they do it.
I did look at it.
There was
but
there somewhere. I don't know what they
yes,
call
it
it.
has to have some sort of
It's
access.
in there somewhere.
There's steps from the close, but must be vehicular access from Clementine Avenue. Yeah. See if this is any better.
No, it's another one. There's a full detail. I did see it.
There's no access there. I mean, the access must be up there.
Got to be in there because there's a
Yeah.
gap there, isn't there?
Mm.
Next to number 12 anyway.
Mm. Number 12 don't own it because the blue line is the extent of number 12's ownership. The blue plus the red.
So they're hoping for the access to go into the close then?
Yes.
It's probably just footpath. access
Mm.
on Princess
Yeah,
Drive.
half only.
But they would also lose the openness in that area as well, wouldn't they?
What is a site
I
layout?
thought there was, yeah, it's,
There needs to be a site layout plan.
Site survey?
Yeah, I think it probably is site survey. Well, let's see.
there we go, this is it, isn't it?
Just a bit more detail. Not sure how clear it is. Hmm. That's 51.
Mm.
That's 12. And that's the new property, presume. No,
No,
it's on the top
right there.
The new property is there.
Top
There, you see
Yeah.
where your pointer is now?
Yeah.
Both
It's
that
there.
bit and there.
Yeah. Doesn't really tell you all that much, does it?
Does it say much about the detail of the new property, or is it more outright at this stage? I can't remember.
Well, this is a full application, I think.
Oh, a proper house,
Yeah.
not a
Yes.
bungalow.
No, it's a house.
It's a house, it's a two-storey house.
That would be
I
dominant,
mean,
wouldn't it?
totally dominate. It's a bit just,
Among bungalows.
House in the hill.
sorry, but seriously,
Be dominant, wouldn't it? Definitely.
just a bit.
Let's have a look at the form, see if anything's reserved. They didn't get any pre-application advice.
Yeah, that's a shame.
It's a full application.
I would say they have to walk up to their garage.
Yeah.
That's number 12. Yeah.
Couldn't see from the, yeah.
That must be the garage. 251 Princess Drive.
It's very odd for access around there though.
Yes, it's all
Quite hard on the foot.
it's
what
a
I think.
detailed application. Mhm.
Because their garage is there.
Yeah.
So they have to, number 51 Princess Drive, have to walk up their garden to the garage, which leads out into Clementine Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where their garage is.
Right. Can we have a proposer and seconder?
Object.
Right, councillor Bourne, so you're proposing we object to out of character of the street scene, overbearing.
Reduction in garden space. It would make it more difficult to resist similar applications. It has the appearance of a house in a
Yeah.
area in a close of bungalows,
Yep.
and so it would be out of character with the existing properties in that close.
Overdevelopment,
Yeah.
that all okay?
Yeah,
Mhm.
fine.
Right, so find a seconder.
Yeah.
Thank you, councillor Hamlin, and show of hands please.
That's objection unanimous.
The next application, LW/24/0152, 10 Lullington Close. I think we've decided that because it wasn't on the paper copy, that we're going to defer
Came in
to the
late.
next meeting.
It came in late and only there was a mix up between two drafts, one with Lullington Close on it, which was a late edition, and there was a bit of a hurry getting the agendas out because with Good Friday and Easter Monday intervening, we had to get it out early to get 5 working days notice. So apologies for that. We'll defer it till the next meeting. And at the next meeting will also be an application for, I think there's a block of 9 flats on the corner of Sutton Drove and East Albany Road.
I'm going to have a proposal and seconder that we're going to defer.
Thank you.
Proposed by Councillor Vaughan and then seconded by Councillor. And a show of hands. Thank you. Tree Works, TW/24/0029/TPO, 11 Barkham Avenue. I think this is just more or less straightforward. Home Oaks reduction, ground reduction.
I don't know if there's any additional information. I couldn't find any before. Yeah,
Anybody else?
it says, 2 holm oaks, we wish to crown reduce the holm oaks by up to no more than 2 metres. We wish to retain the shape of the trees, tree apostrophe S, for those who like to note these things, while benefiting from a crown reduction. We would like a 2 metre crown reduction to prevent the trees growing out of the area, outgrowing the area. Sorry. We also want to prevent any limb or stem failures. Trees are getting rather large and do lose a few branches in heavy winds. Lose.
Councillor Honey.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is, I might agree with Greg, I was a bit confused as to who actually owned the trees. Because the applicant was not the agent, acting on behalf of the applicant. One of the councillors who did put an objection said about as long as works weren't carried out during the nesting season.
I was going to say that.
But
That's always noted anyway when
Yeah.
when they're given approval.
yeah, but I was just a bit confused as to who actually owned it. Because it says like tree ownership, is the application the owner of the tree?
I know. Is it the agent?
And then I got a bit confused. I was looking at this
Can
quickly.
you be anonymous, Chair?
Welcome Close.
No, it's the agent's the
It says
applicant.
from Mr. Tudernford, who's the agent. That's the tree surgeon.
Oh, but they often do that. I mean,
Yeah,
we've
the
got-
tree surgeon puts in the application.
Yeah, so it's not a hidden thing. It's
No,
just
no, I
that's
just-
what
I
they
just-
do because the residents don't know how to do it.
On
They
a
get tree
on a
surgeons.
planning application, there'd be an ownership certificate, and the agent would have to certify that the applicant would normally be the householder, and the agent. But on tree applications, for some reason, they must try and simplify it, and they don't really go into the ownership. Perhaps they make the assumption that, the trees are owned by the person. Yeah. It's a bit woolly, I must admit, but it's because it's not treated as quite so formal and serious as a PACA planning application.
So,
Some proposal.
to support and seconded by Councillor Vaughan. Do you want to mention to add about the nesting season, that we're aware of it?
Mhm.
And
That's
lack of,
comment.
can you mention lack of photo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Happy everyone?
Yeah.
Can I have a show of hands, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Right, go on to agenda item 5.
This is purely for information. It's not a consultation. It's been been approved at councillor level. I'm not sure how county council approves things nowadays. It's not a committee. It's like a public meeting where the cabinet member in charge sort of goes through the decisions and either ticks them or crosses them. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I think the new standards are in place or will be very soon. And I thought it'd be useful for you to see how they work out the different standards, different requirements for new developments, non-residential and residential. Obviously there is this sort of matrix where you feed everything in and a figure comes out, and we haven't really got access to that, I don't think, but it just gives you the principles of how they make the decision, what feeds into the decision, how it varies from area to area, and how it complies with national guidance. So, and it's a good reference document.
Can I just, for the sake of the camera, is to inform the committee of East Sussex County Council's approved new guidance for parking standards at new residential and non-residential developments. It's just for the sake of the camera.
I jumped the gun, sorry.
Right, unless there's any questions, I'll just ask you to note the report.
Noted.
Noted. Thank you. Agenda item 6, to notify the committee of decisions taken by Lewes District Council on applications previously considered by this committee. You're asked to note the report unless there's any questions. Councillor Hanneman.
The advertising hoarding got passed along Claremont. Plans. I thought that was interesting because at the time we did have quite a big discussion on that. I don't think it's too dominant, but we didn't quite know how that was going to go, did we?
In the report, there was feed-in from the conservation officer because it's quite close to the edge of the conservation area, and she didn't consider that it was prejudicial to the conservation area, and that was the same reason that was given for the rejection of our objection, that it wasn't sort of close enough to the conservation area to warrant a refusal.
We were really trying on a limb there.
Well, yes, but at least they quoted our objection and answered it, which is there's only there's one worse thing from being rejected, and that's being ignored completely. So it's they did it by the book.
Unless there's any other questions, no?
The tree.
I mentioned the tree. I've added the tree decision because I thought it'd be interesting to see how they're quite rare tree works appeals. Interested to see how the inspector approached it, what he took into account, what he didn't take into account, how he came to his conclusion. Just the one tree. You wouldn't think it would warrant that amount of, it shows how seriously they take it. It goes to, in a relatively straightforward matter, goes to 4 pages of reasoning. So, as I say, it's quite rare that these things go to a hearing.
They refused the felling, didn't they? Did they refuse the felling or they appealed for the felling?
They refused the felling.
Yeah, turned down and they appealed and
They got
the appeal's been dismissed. The tree is saved.
There's the
Should
conclusion.
it be reduced slightly if it was that dangerous? Didn't we say?
Well, yeah,
That's what the
they're
law says,
entitled. They're entitled to take away, to remove
A certain amount.
branches that are considered to be dangerous. They should really consult the district council first, but they're entitled to do that without consent. I mean, should be informal consent rather than formal consent to do
Yeah.
it. But it's a long-standing thing, and as I say, it went to a hearing, and the full decision is there. So otherwise, other than the advert warning, there's nothing else to mention.
Okay. So we show of hands to noting the report.
Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. And that concludes the meeting. Sorry, where are you done? 8:34.